Next up in the beer characteristics section is the alcoholic flavor and aroma characteristic. When we're discussing alcoholic characteristics, we are talking about a spicy or a vinous character that affects both aroma and taste. This is when the presence of alcohol is noticeable in aroma, flavor, or both outside of the expected amounts that we are looking for in a particular beer style. When it starts to exceed these expected levels, it can start to become more wine-like or even resemble that of a higher proof spirit. Along with the noticeable flavor, excessive amounts of alcohol also produce a warming or prickling sensation in the mouth that can follow through in the chest when swallowing. The key alcohol component in the alcoholic character in beer comes from ethanol. This is the type of alcohol that is produced from converting simple sugars like glucose in the fermentation process. There are a couple other types of alcohol in beer that contribute to the alcoholic character. Ethanol is the primary alcohol in beer, so naturally that's the one that contributes the most to this characteristic, as we just discussed a moment ago. And as we just mentioned as well, it's produced when the yeast converts simple sugars. There's also higher alcohols, most commonly called fusel alcohols. These are typically present in a low concentration and below the threshold of what we can notice specifically as fusel when fermentation goes properly. They add complexity in normal amounts, but when larger amounts are produced, they become far more perceptible and perceived as off flavors. There are a couple of causes of elevated alcohol levels that we need to be aware of. Yeast stress factors are a significant cause of high alcohol levels. Yeast stress can be caused by underpitching yeast. Insufficient amounts of yeast affect the yeast metabolism, leading to the stronger alcohol character production. Low amounts of dissolved oxygen in the wort that the yeast is pitched into also leads to yeast stress. We discussed the importance of oxygen for yeast to produce sterols for the cell walls in our yeast and fermentation section. Lack of yeast nutrients in the wort leads to low free available nitrogen that affects the yeast and leads to them metabolizing fatty acids, producing higher alcohol levels. Environmental factors can cause an alcoholic character. High gravity worts with high levels of fermentable sugar by nature lead to higher alcohol levels. And this may be a desired trait in the beer style. More on that in a second. And high fermentation temperatures promote higher and increased yeast activity and increases alcohol production during fermentation. Now a bit about the effect of an alcoholic character on flavor, aroma, and mouthfeel. On taste and aroma, it's perceived as a spicy vinous character, back to the wine and spirits description that we led this lesson off with. And also, as we noted, it creates a warming, sometime prickly sensation in the mouth. In the mouthfeel, it adds a warming character along with complexity. When it's too strong or too hot, as sometimes described, it can distract from the style and not be appropriate. Now, an alcoholic flavor can be a desirable trait in some beers. Strong ales and strong lagers benefit and are expected to have an alcoholic character. Some examples of these styles include Eisbock, Imperial Stout, English barley wine, and American barley wine. Even when desirable, that alcoholic character should be balanced to the overall beer. It should never present as solvent-like or a harsh character due to excessive esters or fusel alcohols. The alcoholic beer characteristic, in summary, alcoholic flavors are both a characteristic and potential flaw depending on the style and concentration. Yeast health, fermentation temperature, and oxygen levels are crucial to managing alcohol levels. And if we perceive an alcoholic character in a beer in our judging/tasting exam, we will want to make a suggestion note to the effect of focus on balanced fermentation practices to achieve the desired alcoholic profile without harsh off flavors. All right, that is it for the alcoholic character. Let's move on to the next lesson.